What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back on the video. It's Monday, so it's time for the mock draft Monday. We did full PPR last week. We've done 12 team leagues in like 5 or 6 straight. So we're gonna do half PPR, 10 team league. In this one, we've done early and middle recently, so we're gonna randomize. 10, perfect. We're gonna get the turn pick at 10, and then a standard setup. You know, 1 defense, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, flex spot. We're going to turn on composite ADP so we get good ADPs, not going to rely on the ECR for Fantasy Pros. And then I turned off wide receiver like very high just because I think it's a little bit less likely, like in a full PPR league, you're going to see huge runs at wide receiver, even in like deeper formats. In a 10-team half PPR league, I don't think you see as big a run. I think running backs go like kind of even with wide receivers, but I do want to keep on quarterback high because I think everyone's going to go after early quarterbacks this season, and then rookies on high just to make sure we're not getting too like undervalued for rookies. And then people also just like when they get to later rounds, people just lean towards trying to take rookies. So here is the draft board. We are at the turns. We have the 10 pick. First round, Jefferson, McCaffrey, Chase, Kupp, Eckler, Bijan, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, and Saquon Barkley. The only player that I would question going that early is Saquon Barkley, not because I don't think he will. I have just seen, at least on Underdog, he's going in like the late second. That'll move up in a redraft league, but if you did a redraft draft right now, I would expect Saquon to be at earliest an early second round pick. I don't think he would go that early, but it wouldn't be crazy to see someone take him that early. So options for us. We are definitely not going quarterback. We are definitely not going tight end now that Kelsey's off the board. So those two are off the board. We have one more, in my opinion, like top tier, whether you want to call it tier 1, tier 2, it doesn't really matter. Like one more very clear option at wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. I am personally not concerned about the like situation that's been going on with him. He's going to be playing for the Buffalo Bills this season. He's going to be their top wide receiver target. He's going to be very good. Like those things are not in question. So I'm not worried at it. If we start to get, any news pop up about them being like turmoil with the team, in like August, sure. Right now, I'm not even factoring it in at all. And that is probably going to be my pick. The computer wants us to go with like running back pretty heavy at this pick, honestly. But they want us to go with running back. I think just like JT, Jacobs, Chubb, Henry, Pollard, Stevenson, that entire tier there are just second round players in my opinion. I know I'm at like the turn right now, but I would want to be closer to pick like 15 before I took any of them. In the rankings, we do have Taylor as the top player, but I don't know. I'm not in love with Jonathan Taylor at this spot, for many of the reasons I've talked about earlier of why I'm not getting him a ton. He's actually slipping now, but I'm not getting him as much in best ball. I think a lot of people are over projecting maybe like the rushing potential for him for the touchdowns. We know Anthony Richardson is going to steal a lot of carries, but also a lot of carries near the goal line. So his ceiling for touchdowns for JT, maybe not as high as before. But also I can look at this and say, is the drop off from JT into Jacobs, Chubb, Henry, Pollard, Stevenson, like, it's not massive, but some of the drop-offs after this top tier of wide receiver starts to be a little bit big. So long way of saying, I think we'll go with Stephon Diggs. And if one of these running backs is there at our next pick, we would take them. Like I'm talking about like the 3 over here. Like if we got like Stevenson to fall to us at like 310, we would go after them absolutely there. But like I don't want to take Stevenson, let's say, at the 201. Like that, it's just far, far too early. So if someone from this whole tier, I guess it'll be 6 running backs is available at this next pick, we will definitely go with them. I don't think that'll be the case. It would be the same thing with wide receiver. If one of Lamb, Adams, Brown, Amon St. Brown, and then Garrett Wilson, if one of them was available at our next pick, we'd definitely do that. So we're at this spot, and this is actually a tricky spot to be in. So we have the option of going, obviously we took Diggs here with the turn pick. We have the pick 11. We have the option of going double wide receiver. My hesitation with that is, number one, this is not best ball. This is redraft. And so I have to actually start these players. I can't just draft a billion wide receivers, cycle through their spiked weeks, and do well with that strategy. I have to be starting these players. So at most I can start 3. And so it's fine to start off with 2, but we're locking ourselves into a little bit of a box. Like, what if at 3 and 4, there's really good wide receiver talent and running back talent fell off? It's like, well, we kind of need running back now. So by opening with 2 at the same position, you're giving yourself a little bit fewer outs. So I do actually think we're going to go with JT. I know I talked a little bit badly about him before. I do have him at in the half PPR rankings at 9th overall. So I do still have him high. I just think some people are definitely like, he's at 7 here. Like 7 is definitely too early. I think people are just a little bit over projecting that rushing touchdown volume. But like if I have him, it's something I go back to a lot. If I know that in my projections, I am taking account of the fact that like Anthony Richardson is going to steal a lot of touchdowns. And so I have docked the touchdown potential for Jonathan Taylor in the projections. And if he still grades out as a top player, maybe we should be leaning towards that. And then again, not locking ourselves into a box. So we'll take JT. I think that's a quality pick, and we will see what's available in the next round. 3 quarterbacks come off the board, the 3 that we would imagine come off the board: Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts. As I've mentioned before, in a 10-team league, you're leaning a little bit more towards quarterback and tight end than you would in a 12-team league. I don't personally view 10 and 12 as like huge differences, whereas like 8 is way different in an 8-team league. You need to go after an early quarterback. You need to be targeting early tight ends because you need that differentiator. Everyone has insane players at every position. 10 and 12 are similar, but there's still a little bit of a lean because you have everyone's just a little bit stronger at running back, at wide receiver. That differentiator at quarterback can really make a difference. If you have Jalen Hurts and runs for 17 touchdowns, or Allen, all the touchdowns like rushing and passing combined, like maybe he leads the league in that. Maybe Mahomes throws for 5,500 yards, 50 touchdowns, something like that. Like that sort of outcome really sets you ahead. Whereas, you can make up for it running back and wide receiver in other formats. We're going to have good running backs and wide receivers in this one. So, long story short, we'd be looking at quarterback and tight end here, but not with those ones gone. I guess I didn't mention the rest of the players off the board. So after our pick, wide receivers, all what you would expect: Lamb, Brown, Adams, St. Brown, Wilson, Waddle, and Devonta Smith. And then Jacobs, Chubb, Pollard, Henry, Stevenson, Hall, and Najee off the board for running backs. We are not going to go with Hawkinson this early. We are not going to go with Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. So we are again looking at running back and wide receiver. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to double dip, but I'm looking at the available options. I do not want Travis Etienne this early. I do not want Aaron Jones this early. I'm not a fan of Ken Walker this season. Mixon's probably a little bit too risky this early. I love Gibbs, but in a half PPR format this early, probably don't need to go there. And so I'm not in love with any of those options. And I really like Dobbins. I like Sanders. I like Pierce. I like Akers. I think maybe it won't happen. Maybe one of them can be there at our next pick. And again, I always say next pick. When I'm talking about next pick at these turns, I mean the next turn that happens. I know everyone's going to be there at our next pick. But we have 310, 401. Maybe someone from that grouping is there at 510, 601. And I'm not willing to reach on that now, especially we've got T. Higgins. We've got Chris Olave. Clearly the top 2 wide receivers still on the board. I think we just go with those 2. Lock up a wide receiver trio that is very, very dominant. 3 wide receivers that can, pretty easily be wide receiver 1s. Diggs obviously has a great potential to be a wide receiver 1, but T. Higgins can finish as a wide receiver 1 if he can stay healthy. Chris Olave, I think, will finish as a wide receiver 1 this season, so we love that. And what else we love is we're going to get 2 of those running backs we talked about before. So Hawkinson goes off the board. Burrow and Lamar come off the board right in the back-to-back before us, which kind of hurts because we would have loved one of them at 5'10", 601. Wide receivers: Metcalf, Cooper, Debo, Keenan Allen, Ridley, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin. But then running back: Etienne, Gibbs, Walker, Jones, Mixon, Dobbins, Pierce, and Dalvin Cook all go. But what we do still have left is the 2 we like. And the 2 we like kind of before a drop-off. I would say Madison's still in that range. Dave Montgomery's still in that range, but I love Miles Sanders. I love Cam Akers this season. I will say I love Chris Godwin. I love Drake London. I think Jerry Jeudy I've probably been too low on, to be honest. Christian Watson's a great pick here. So there are other fantastic options. But given that if we pull up our roster over here, I hope I'm not covering this section, but if you can't see, JT, Diggs, T. Higgins, Olave, we've already got those 3 rock solid wide receivers. I think it benefits our team, especially in a half PPR format, to grab Sanders and Akers. We're now locked in 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers we feel fantastic about. We would really like to start looking at wide receiver and tight end, but we don't need to. And we're just like, we can do anything at our next spot. If we needed to go double running back, double wide receiver, we could still do it. The only question in my mind basically here is, would I prefer taking one of those 2 and then taking Drake London? As you guys know, I really like Drake London this season. If I pull up the rankings, I think it's a resounding no. Let's see. Yeah, it's a no. We should definitely be going with Miles Sanders. Drake London's right next to Cam Akers, so that would be one that we would question. I guess we can do a mental exercise and say, what do we think is available our next pick? So I think Miles Sanders we should go with. So let's just take him for the 5th pick. We'll lock that in. So the question really here is London versus Akers. If we go with Akers, who do we think is available at wide receiver at the next pick? We're looking at like about 20 spots that are going to go by. So we're looking at this general range. Maybe we can get Brandon Ayuk, maybe Mike Evans. I would say like it would be nice if we got Ayuk. So let's just say that happens. Cam Akers and Ayuk, or Drake London and I mean, we would hope for David Montgomery. I don't know that that would happen. It might end up being like Javonte Williams. Like if we don't get Montgomery, yeah, I'd be like Williams, Alvin Kamara, Herbert. Honestly, it would be too early for everyone. And that's my fear, is that there's still a lot of great wide receivers. I think I can go Akers. I will miss out on Drake London, obviously. But I could honestly, if I don't get like a quarterback I like, I think I could double dip at wide receiver and still get 2 really solid ones. So I think my initial take was correct there. Take Cam Akers, double dip at wide receiver. Now, Dave Montgomery is available, but so is Brandon Ayuk. So we're going to see what we do here. 3 running backs go, or 3, tight ends go. 4 running backs. Kittle, Pitts, Goddard off the board. So we're missing out on tight end. I think it's still fine. I really would this season like a value at tight end. I love Mark Andrews. I love TJ Hawkinson. I love Kyle Pitts. I love Darren Waller. Perfectly fine getting Dallas Goedert. Fine getting Kelsey if he fell kind of later into the first round. Obviously, we didn't even have a chance to get him in this draft. And I'm fine with a few of the later tight ends, and we double dip late if we got to that spot. But you have a lot of different options at different points. So I don't really want to reach for anyone. And I felt like at all of our picks, everyone kind of would have been a reach. So we're not going to go with tight end at this pick. Fields is the only quarterback that comes off the board. So if we look at the cheat sheet here, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and then you do get into a range of like Dak to Watson, where we're not going to be touching that range. So it would be Justin Herbert if we wanted a quarterback here. Only 4 running backs: Swift, White, Connor, and Madison. A lot of wide receivers: Hopkins, Judy, Christian Watson, Drake London. Great values for those 2. Kirk, Godwin, Mike Williams, Pittman, Marquise Brown, and Deontay Johnson. So again, we've got Diggs, Higgins, and Olave at wide receiver. We've got JT, Sanders, and Cam Akers at running back. So we're 3-3. I do think the best move here is to take our top wide receiver, which I'm about 99.9% sure is Brandon Ayuk. It is. Take Brandon Ayuk. Take our top running back, who's David Montgomery. We've now got 4 of each of them. I would be supremely confident in all 4 being productive this season. Again, each one of them has chances to bust, chances not be as good as we think. But all of them, every single player I mentioned, is just locked in to a very, very strong role. And honestly, anything could happen to us for the rest of the draft, and we'd be fine. If we really needed to double dip at tight end, double dip at quarterback, just take a bunch of chances at those 2 and be like, hey, you know, maybe we're not 100% confident in Deshaun Watson or Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins, but if I get 2 chances at them, I can probably hit. Maybe I'm not confident in Njoku or Chia Okonkwo or Greg Dulcich, but if I get 2 chances, I can hit. And I feel like if we lock up these 4 and 4 for running back, wide receiver, we're good. We can kind of take all those chances that we want, and we'd still have honestly other rounds to other things. So I think we do it because, again, I feel so confident in both of those two players. Let's lock it up. Let's get just a sick bench. I mean, Cam Akers, Brandon Ayuk, and Dave Montgomery, very, very good there. Bringing up the draft board. After we make those two picks, only Herbert goes. We figured he would come off the board. No tight ends come off the board. So I'm thinking I know what we're going to do at this turn pick. For other players, we've got Lockett, Mike Evans, Pickens, Burks, JSN, Tony Dotson, Addison, and Gabe Davis. Nothing crazy happened there. Pacheco goes at 8-3. I want to mention him. Been sliding down drafts a lot. Not only is Clyde performing well, I think it's Deneric Prince performing well, but also Pacheco's not going to be in camp till like at least halfway through. Like he is still recovering from off-season surgery. I don't know. I don't like it. I tanked Pacheco in the rankings. He's not someone that I would feel confident in drafting. I think he went in the 8th round, so that's not like a bad spot, but it's just not a spot that I really want to go with a running back that I'm not super pumped about. Like Dave Montgomery, I think, is a much better pick. Could Pacheco outscore him? Sure, but in a much better running back environment, I know it doesn't feel like that, but Detroit's the number one environment. I just think there's so much more upside in Montgomery, and I mean, my goodness, if Gibbs ever got hurt, like Montgomery is a running back 1 every other week. But this is all a long way of saying, if we look at running back and wide receiver, at this point, I don't like it. I mean, Herbert's fine. Penny's fine. Jamal Williams, Damian Harris, Charbonnet, like A-Chain fine. I don't want any of them at this pick in the 9th round. Wide receivers, I mean, Brandon Cooks I like. Bateman I like. Quentin Johnson I like. Elijah Moore I love. He would be one that I'd be considering. But I don't think anyone stands out enough for me to say, I can get Darren Waller and Trevor Lawrence at this turn here. Get right at the end of that top tier of quarterback. I really think Trevor Lawrence can have a true breakout this season and just be awesome. In fantasy, I think Darren Waller is going to be a featured weapon on this Giants offense. And I think after both of them, you see a very clear drop-off. And we don't want to be in that drop-off in a 10-team league. So I think the best move is take Lawrence, take Darren Waller, let everyone else kind of figure out those positions. And again, we can afford to do that. We can afford to take more backups if we really wanted to, because we're so locked in at running back and wide receiver. After we go, Watson comes off the board, but no one else at at quarterback and tight end. Running backs, Charbonnet, Williams, Herbert, Penny, A-Chain, all the ones you'd figure will come off the board. And then, a good amount of wide receivers in that range. Unfortunately, Cooks is gone, Johnston gone, Michael Thomas, Bateman, Elijah Moore, all off the board. Even Zay Flowers goes off the board, Jameson Williams. So, that general range of wide receiver where everyone starts to fall in love with them. I don't really see, so when we get into this range, we're in the late 11th round right now, or pick 110. We don't need to be like super picky and be like, I'll just list off the wide receivers I like here. I like Nico Collins. I like Sky Moore, Michael Gallup, Romeo Doubs. For season long, honestly, it starts to stop there, and then it would be Flyers after that. We don't need to worry about value here because we have a turn pick. There's only 2 more flex spots after our turn pick. So completely throw value out the board. If you're looking at a drafter here and you're like, oh, maybe you could get him at that 13 turn. It's like, who cares? If I really wanted to draft Michael Gallup and Romeo Doubs at these 2 picks, don't worry about maybe they're there at that next time. There's only 2 more picks after that. Lock up the guys you like. It really is in the early rounds where that would matter a little bit more. If we're looking at running back, a lot of the stuff's gone. I think Damian Harris isn't a bad pick at this spot, but I like Jalen Warren. I like Kenneth Gainwell. I like Kendre Miller. I just think a lot of these options will definitely be available to us at the next pick. And if not, I love Tank Bigsby. I think you could take a shot on Ezekiel Elliott this late. I think even Kareem Hunt you could take with your last pick. Tyjae Spears you get some upside with. So I think there's way more options there that I do kind of want to just double dip at wide receiver. Be like, I'm done. Those are the last 2 wide receivers I'm going to take. We'll double dip with 2 kind of handcuff running backs after that. I think you could argue going with tight end if you really wanted to go with honestly, you could go with Evan Ingram. This is a really good value for a lot of these players. I don't think you need to because you're kind of assuming Darren Waller is going to be pretty decent. But I don't know. I guess I'll say this. If Ingram or Njoku were there at our next turn, I would definitely throw one of them on the bench. Just be like, you know what? Maybe Waller doesn't doesn't hit and one of those two really breaks out, you'd want a path to really breaking out. Like Pat Fryermuth, I wouldn't use it this pick because like I don't really see a path to him dominating. But you know, if Trevor Lawrence is just awesome, which makes my pick really good, maybe Evan Ingram would kind of have a even better breakout this year. If Cleveland really breaks out in terms of like passing volume, being productive, maybe Njoku like has a true breakout. But like I don't think like Dalton Schultz, like that wouldn't be someone I'd add here because it's like, I mean, is Dalton Schultz really going to have an insane season? So if one of those two is available, maybe we'll go at that. But I think our best option is just take our top 2 ranked wide receivers. I can go to page 2 over here. Off the top of my head, I can't even. There we go. Off the top of my head, my guess is it's Sky Moore and then Dobbs, but I don't know if I have Dobbs over Gallup. Gallup is first. So Sky Moore and then Gallup. I do think I want to lock in Sky Moore here because the upside is pretty sweet if he can become a full-time starter on that offense. Again, I don't think I need a running back. I have JT. Yeah, okay, I was skipping Miles Sanders. I have JT, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, and Dave Montgomery. I don't think I need to lock in Damian Harris with this pick. I think we can just go with backups. But I'm thinking one of Gallup or Dobbs will just be there at the next pick. So why don't we just do that? Because at least Damian Harris has the he's got the best chance. Like I obviously like Tyjae Spears, but like who would I prefer between Damian Harris and Tyjae Spears? Well, obviously Damian Harris has a better chance to be like highly productive. So let's go Damian Harris. Yeah, it looks like one of them's going to be available. Honestly, both of them are available, Gallup and Dobbs. Both the tight ends do go off the board. So why don't we go Gallup at this pick? And then I would say Warren. Warren probably has the best chance. I'd be fine with Gainwell. And I think fine with all these guys. Jerome Ford, Tank Bigsby, Tyjae Spears. They're all such good picks. So maybe we didn't even need to go with the Harris pick. But we'll take Jaylen Warren with that pick. We'll grab the Saints defense for that early schedule. And we will take a gander at the team here. So starting lineup, week 1. I usually say would depend on that flex spot, like who you'd be starting, but I'm pretty sure we're starting Chris Olave, know who he's playing. Starting lineup: Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Darren Waller, Chris Olave, and the Saints. And honestly, just an awesome bench. Cam Akers, Brandon Ayuk, David Montgomery, Sky Moore, Damian Harris, Michael Gallup, and Jaylen Warren. So that'll do it for this week's Mock Draft Monday. Tomorrow it'll be live 6:30 Eastern to do an underdog draft with all of you. I don't know if that'll be a Best Ball Mania or like one with you. We can vote on that during the live stream. And then Wednesday will be some sort of strategy video for redraft leagues. I don't know exactly what it'll be yet. That, my friends, is Dennis1. Hope you all enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Thanks for watching.